When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there and welcome to Join Up Dots. Join Up Dots. How are we? How are we all across the world? Hello to China. I was having a little dabble in iTunes the other day, having a look at how I was doing in different places. And China, hello to you. Now, there's a billion people in China. Tell your friends, tell your special friends, your partner, and I could have the world's biggest podcast if China's on my side, so thank you so much. And if you could have a word with the Indians, the lovely people in India, that's another 12 billion people, so that would be great as well. So anywhere that there's a lot of people, just say to them, do you listen to podcasts? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you fancy listening to this guy from the United Kingdom? And I will be in their ears, keeping them company as I have been keeping all of you company for the last 4 years or so. So, how are we all? Hope you're having a good week. I hope you're rocking and rolling. Today's show's it's a bit of a ranty show, to be honest, and I've entitled it Personal Development because I get quite a lot of people come through to me on the show, and they come through Facebook, they come through email, and more often than not, they're asking me questions about how to start going, how to get a business going, and how to change their life for the best. And one of the things that I always come back and I ask them is, well, what do you fancy doing then? What's your thing? What do you really want to do? And most of them will say something along the lines of, oh, well, I don't know really. I don't want to be doing, and they tell me what they don't want to do more than what they do want to do. It's very rare that I get somebody that comes along and says, I'll tell you exactly what I do. I love this, and wax lyrical about whatever it is in their heart, so that we've got a starting point to be able to transition them to getting clients and building a business. And that's what you need. You need to be able to tap into your super talent, and then you need to be able to provide that super talent to people who need it, and then they will share across the world. And you will have the world's biggest business. It's a little bit more to creating a business than that, but it isn't too difficult. Create value for people, and people pay you for that. And whether you're doing it online by video and scalable, or you're doing it on one-on-one, or you're making stuff, it's all from time immemorial. People have been providing services for people. As they say, prostitution is the world's oldest profession. That's what they say. Prostitution is the world's oldest profession. And I always think, well, if it was the very first profession, who could pay for it? Nobody had any money. So how could you do that? So that's a load of old rubbish. And it's quite obvious, but they haven't focused in on themselves. Now, you win the outer game by winning the inner game. And that's where personal development comes along from. You've got to start understanding yourself. You've got to understand what you're great at. You've got to understand what you're really great at, and then developing that until you become a category of one. People start noticing you. Now, if you look at all the really high flyers around the world, look at somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, if you're into football, you will know his name. If you're not into football, you probably will still know his name because he is absolutely at the top of his game. But if you watch the documentary about him, he would spend hours and hours and hours practicing. Now, he started off with a talent. He was very, very good at football. People could see that. But he had to define that talent, so he became better than anyone. And that would mean when people went in from training, he would stay out, practicing free kicks, practicing corners, practicing his shooting for hour upon hour upon hour, building up the muscles in his legs, becoming stronger, all within that thing that he was already good at. He was trying to win his inner game so that he could win his outer game. He would have the physical strength to knock people off the ball. He would have the physical strength to leap like a salmon. He would have the physical strength to become the world's greatest footballer. And every single one of you out there has to start developing yourself. You have to. And it could be as simple as finding something that you like in a business sense and then cluing up on it, reading as much as you possibly can. I've always got a book on the go. I used to make sure that I ploughed through every single book all the way through. Now, more often than not, I will get to a point and I think to myself, okay, I've got the gist of this. Let's move on to the next one. So most books are based around maybe 2 or 3 concepts and they keep on rehashing the same idea. And so that's what I do. If you look at the side of my bed, I probably got 4 books that I'm proceeding through, all based around business and podcasting and life and biographies and how people have struggled and achieved. Everything is inspirational to me so that I can take forward in my own life. But I said to this lady the other day, I said, what's the last book that you've read? And she came through to me and she said, David, could you spare me some time? And I said, yeah, no problem at all. And I don't do a lot of that. Don't come flooding through to me. I only select the people that I think that really need it, because otherwise I wouldn't have a life. Anyhow, she came through and I said, yeah, no problem at all. And I said to her, what was the last book you read? And she said, I don't read books. No, I did like Harry Potter. I read Harry Potter, but I don't read books. And I said to her, so where are you getting your information from? Where are you finding more about that idea that we discussed? And she said, well, I kind of look on the websites and I've sort of dabbled. And I went, yeah, okay, that's a starting point. But that only shows you a certain point. You've got to take that content that is free and delve deeper, and generally that is paid information. That might be paid coaching, that might be paid memberships, that might be paid something. People generally will give the easy stuff for free, and the real gems, the real good stuff, becomes their book, whatever. So I said to her, when was the last time you read one? No, I don't really read. I said, so how are you going to become better and better and better at it if you're not seeking out the best information? You're not seeking out the information that can open doors for you. You're not seeking out the information that can answer questions that is holding you back, which is why coaching is so important. A lot of people, literally every single guest I've had at Join Up Dots has had a business coach, or they've got a business coach, because they pay for that person who is ahead of them. So they can ask them, how do I do this? How do I do that? What do you think? Because that person's already been through that journey. They've already developed themselves to that point. And that business coach that's servicing the other one will have their own business coach. And it just goes up and up and up. For example, I do a lot of coaching for podcasting. Now, so many people think you can just launch a podcast and away you go, because they only see it as the recording part, the recording and getting it out onto iTunes. And it's ludicrous. But you see that, you think, well, that is the part of it. That is a podcast. So that is where success comes from. But it's not. It's the journey behind the scenes. It's the last 4 years of stuff that I've learned and realised doesn't work, or does work, or really works, that is nothing to do with setting up a microphone or a cable or a recording device. It has nothing to do with that. Success is not built about the first thing. It's not about learning to drive a car. If you want to be Lewis Hamilton, it's about learning to drive that car better than anybody else. And that is where personal development comes in. So for anyone out there who's listening to these podcasts and thinks to themselves, this is as good as it gets, by listening to these because I'm on the train or I'm driving around, you're only scratching the surface. You've really got to start to think about, what is your inner game? What is the thing that you can do really well? And start to think, how do I become better and better and better at that? How do I spend more time on that than anything else so that I can be what I want to be? You might want to be a writer. Your first go isn't going to be very good, or more often than not, it's not going to be very good. So you've got to learn writing skills and prose. You've got to learn how to structure content. You've got to learn how to build a story. Everything will not come to you instantly. It really won't. But you've got to develop yourself. So as I say, a little bit of a rant in this show, but I just see it time and time again that people are not willing to develop themselves. They think that they can just start doing something without putting the effort in first. You're not going to be able to lift up the heaviest thing until you start working on your muscles by building up little by little to be able to lift that. You're not going to be able to run a marathon unless you do the first stumbling run and then build it up, build it up. You've got to develop yourself. So if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I've never read a book, I've only listened to podcasts, or I prefer watching Netflix, try to change your thinking. Try to change what you are wanting to do and bring that into your life, because it will make so much difference. And perhaps the next time when I speak to somebody and I say, what's the last book you've read, they will say to me, well, I read this one last week and the one before. There's a guy who connected with me on the show, and I did an episode based on what he told me the other day, called Jason Sumner, and he's aiming to read 52 books this year. 52. Now, they're not all going to really hit home to him. There's going to be one or two that he's going to love. He's actually reading a book that I gave him, actually my book that I've got coming out in June. But he is aiming to do that because at the end of the year, he will have so much more knowledge of where he wants to go, what he thinks works, the other ways of thinking that he wouldn't just get by flicking on Netflix or going down the bar, going down the pub. 52 books in a year, that's a big ask, but that's his focus. He's aiming to develop himself because he knows that the personal development game is what wins. That is where you become stronger and stronger and stronger until you can do your thing. So all of you, please, please, please don't just listen to podcasts all the time. Don't just think that by listening you're developing yourself. Find something that you really fancy out of all the shows, not necessarily my ones, other ones. Look around on iTunes and find something that you really think is going to be your thing, and then try to become the best you possibly can be. Because believe me, once you become the best, opportunities come your way which you just wouldn't have had previously. It becomes extremely fun and extremely lucrative. I hope somebody will send me a message and say, because of this podcast, I went into the library or I went on Amazon and I bought this book and I've been reading it this week. It will mean the world to me. Have a great weekend, everybody, and until next time, this was David Ralph. Have a lovely weekend and develop yourself to an inch of your life, because it's the way forward. Cheers. See ya. Bye-bye.
That's the end of Join Up Dots. You've heard the conversation. Now it's time for you to start taking massive action. Create your future, create your life. It's the only life you've got. And we'll be back again real soon. Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots. Join Up Dots.